Hi, this is Ruth Brunner. Today is September 8th, 2021, and I'm here with Betty Detterer in Windsor, Colorado, at her home. And Betty, why don't you go ahead and give us your full name, date of birth, and place of birth?
Well, my name is Betty Detterer, and I was born in 1933, about 8 miles east of here. And it's a little town. It was a little town. It was just a grocery station and a gas station near Farmer Spur, a mile north. That's where I was born. To my parents, John Walter and Mary Walter, and they were born my dad was born in 1903 at Lincoln, Nebraska, and I think he was born after their parents just came over from Russia, and he had 2 or 3 other siblings that were born over there, and he was the first one that was born over here. Mm-hmm. They had there were 7 of them in their family, 5 boys and 2 girls. And then my mom was born here in Windsor, and her other 2 siblings, 2 brothers, were born over in Russia, and so she was born then over here. And then her parents grew up then, went out to Grover and homesteaded out there. And my parents, my dad's parents, then they moved to Sterling, Colorado, and that's where my parents met each other.
Okay.
So anyway, and then I have one brother that was 5 years older than I am, and a sister that was 3 years older. And then I had a sister that was 8 years younger, and another sister 8 years younger than that. And so that was our family. So I was the middle one, and I got the worst of everything.
So did the church play a big role in your lives?
Yes, it was. I grew up in the church all the time, and every Sunday you didn't say, I don't want to go to church. You just got in the car and gone. And if we weren't the first ones in front of the church, they said, there's something wrong with the Walters, they are not here. And even after we got married, we made sure we went to church every Sunday. In fact, I was Sunday school superintendent at St. John's, where we got married, and Sunday school superintendent for 11 years. And I was Ladies Missionary Society. I was president for that for about 13 years. So, and I sang in the choir, and I've been in the choir ever since I was 6 years old. So I sang at a lot of funerals too.
Okay. So how did you meet your husband, Henry?
Well, I met him on this farm after my mother and his aunt they found out that they were cousins, and they met at a funeral up in Wheatland, Wyoming. And his aunt said to my mother, why don't you come over to my brother's, my sister-in-law's place, and we'll can talk. And so that's when I came over with my parents that night, and that's when Henry and his family were all in the house, and so that's when I met him. But I didn't say nothing to him, I was bashful, I didn't say nothing, and he didn't either. And he just sat in the kitchen with his brother and sister, and they all had families already, so it was kind of funny.
What year was that?
1952.
Okay, so
In August.
Then you married and had children? And...
Yeah, we got 2 children, and our daughter Sandra is up in Cheyenne, married to Charlie Fagler. And they've got a son named Kyle and a little granddaughter, my great-granddaughter, she's 5 years old, Lauren. And then our son married Sherry Schmidt, and they had 2 children. Jessica, she's in Las Vegas, married, got a little boy. He's 14 months old now. And Jordan is living in Berthoud, and he works for the power company of Loveland.
Okay. So, who did the doctoring in your family?
Oh, I don't know.
And can you remember any one doctor that you went to, or?
Well, when we got married, I went to Dr. Henshaw in Greeley, and before that was Dr. Webster in Greeley when I growed up and stuff like that. But in 1945, I came down with encephalitis, sleeping sickness from a horse.
Oh.
And I slept, and the doctor had to come out to the house with my folks. And then my dad had a wreck with a load of beans with a milk truck near Greeley. And it had in the newspaper, it wasn't strawberries and cream, it was beans and cream. And that was during the war, and that was in September. And then we had to find a new truck to harvest beets. And we had to go up to Cheyenne, Wyoming at the Air Force Base up there, and then we found an old Army truck. Mm-hmm. And my folks bought that, and that's what we haul beets in then. Wow.
So what did the schoolhouse that you attended look like, or how is?
Well, it's still there. It's called the Grange, and it was a fourth of a mile away from our house, and so we had to walk all the time. There was nobody. You didn't get a ride unless you were smart enough to go out on the road, and the neighbors would come and pick us up and take us to school. That they were taking their children to school, and you could do that. You can't hitchhike now. So it was fun. And the school is still there. I have taken pictures of it. It was, it's made into a house, and it was big. And it was 4 rooms, but one was a storage room, because there was first and second grade in one room, third, fourth, and fifth graders in another room, and sixth, seventh, and eighth in the other room. And one teacher taught all 3 classes,
Wow.
So.
Wow, that would be a lot. So you've seen some changes in schools.
Yes.
Have you seen changes in the church that you went when you went to St. John's, and how has that changed?
Yeah, well, it closed up because we couldn't find any minister that. Most of the people were German years ago, back in '53 when we got married. People still wanted German. Well, there was a lot of people that didn't like it. So then that's when the church separated and went to Bethel. And it was hard to get a minister then for us. And so in 94, 96, it closed down then. Mm-hmm.
And they merged with Bethel, or they just closed?
They just, some of them went up to Bethel, but there was a lot of them that didn't.
Okay. So, do you recall any early crimes that made headlines in Windsor, or?
Not that I remember anything. It seemed like there was a shooting down in Johnstown, and my uncle from Windsor here, and my parents went down to find out about it, and what was, I don't know.
Okay. So what do you remember most about the town of Windsor when you moved here as a new bride? Is that right?
Yeah. Well,
when did you move here?
I would come with my parents over to see my uncles that lived here. My dad's brothers were living in Windsor, and we'd come to visit.
Okay.
So us kids would be playing out in the street, and kick the can, or hide and go seek, or baseball or something, until we'd break a window, and then we'd have to quit. But we had fun. My uncle, they had 10 kids, and so we had our own baseball team and everything, and us 3 kids. Edna Mae and Judy were too little, my sisters, to play anything like that, but we just would have a lot of fun just running outside and playing.
Okay. So, what changes have you seen in Windsor?
Well, just the growth. When we got married, there was only 1,500 people in town. That was counting cats and dogs, I think, too.
Yeah.
And then then the sugar factory closed up. Well, then that went back down to about 1,200.
In
people.
69 or
Yeah.
68?
Something in there, yeah.
Okay.
And then until Kodak came, and then it started growing back up again then.
Okay.
But
So when did you move to this farm that's here at what's called Westwood Subdivision? Or
yes, Riverbend.
Riverbend Subdivision,
yeah.
off of Westwood
Well,
Drive.
that happened in 90, we sold it in 80 the first time. And then we got it back, and then we sold it back in 94.
Okay.
And so our farm was which is now from 11th Street to 13th Street, clear down to, past Walnut, and the end of 12th Street is a pasture.
Uh-huh.
It's supposed to be a park, but it doesn't look like a park, and it still looks like a pasture.
Well, there's natural springs in there, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's behind
yeah,
the patio
yeah.
homes and the
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So.
there's a natural spring that goes back down in there, and it starts up here at the highway between our place and Bertha Street's farm, or our street, and it went all the way down then. And it was a wooden culvert, I guess you would call it, or a pipeline that went by. It was all made out of wood, because when they did construction and when they start building on here, they dug up some of the wood, and we figured out that that's where that water came from.
Okay.
And we never did have to feed the sheep or cattle water. It was just, we made little troughs, cement troughs, and in and out, and we'd go to the next trough, in and out, and down the river it'd go.
Yeah. It's the open space just south of Walnut,
Yeah.
between what?
12th Street and
12th and-
right behind the patio homes there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how far down did your farm go from
It
that?
went down to the river. Then
Okay.
we had 182 acres total.
All right.
There's 102 down there and 80 up here.
Was that all farmable, or did it have a
Yes.
lot of?
Well, except for the pasture.
Uh-huh.
And other than that was all farm. We raised potatoes, corn, hay, barley, and a few beans, not very many beans. And but we were flooded out 3 times from the river when it flooded.
In how many years?
The first time was in about 65.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was in 76 when the big Thompson hit. And then about in 83 or 84 in there again. And we lose all our crops down there.
Wow. Did you have crop insurance or what?
They couldn't afford it, and they didn't have anything like that ever.
They didn't. So.
No. So. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
So that's interesting. So you've seen those changes. What was Windsor Main Street like?
It was paved out to middle school.
Okay.
And that was the end of pave. And when we'd get to Windsor, as kids, we would walk from our uncle's houses to up and down one street and down the other, and turn around and go back down the other side and look at all the shops and everything, and stop at the candy store. There was a candy store where Conoco Station is now.
Okay. On 4th Street.
Yes, and it was an ice cream shop and everything, and you could go in there and take a penny and buy 5 pieces of candy. So.
What year was that?
Well, back in the early 40s.
Because you were born
In 33, and
so you were
about 6 years old when
Yeah.
we come in here to my uncle's and aunt's place. And
Now, Windsor just celebrated its 99th Harvest Festival
Right.
because we were the first paved Main Street in
Right.
Weld County.
And I can remember coming in, and they'd have all their big rides, Lupoplane and everything, octopuses in Main Park. And then on Main Street on Saturday night, they'd have a dance in front of the town hall. And then on Monday nights, they'd have it again. And they'd have a Dutch hop band, Johnny Fritzler, or his dad, or I don't know who played then, but anyway, Adolf Lesser is one that played.
Okay.
And stuff, and we'd go and watch them for a little bit, but on Monday nights we had to hurry up and get home with the kids if they get to school the next morning after we were married. And the parade came down Main Street and landed up by the high school here, middle school now, and that was the end of the parade.
Okay. Now, did you go to Windsor High School?
No, I didn't. I didn't even get to high school. I graduated at LaGrange, and that was it.
Okay.
And so our kids all went. Henry went to Windsor here. He started the 12th grade, and then he was going to be turning 18, and they said, well, he was deferred the first time, and then he decided he was going to join the service. So he went to Denver and they said, well, what do you want to go into? He said, the Army, and he said, no, you're going to the Navy.
Okay.
So you didn't have your choice. So
I'm going to zoom over and let people see pictures of this, but what can you tell me about Henry's time in the service?
He was in there for 2 years, from 44 to 46, and he was on the U.S. Yorktown, and he worked up on the flight deck. He pulled the planes back and forth for the pilots. He had to put the wings down or put them up when they come in, and he was in 2 typhoons that it bent the flight deck down on the plane. That's how pressure that was. And they had to go into, I think, the Philippines and have it straightened out and stuff.
Were you married at that time?
No.
No. So how was it being at home as a...
Well, I didn't even know him at that time.
you
so,
didn't?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just in the 5th grade when he was in service. I didn't think anybody was fighting for me over there.
Yeah, wow. So what kinds of things did you do as a housewife that maybe...
I was a hired man.
Yeah.
I was my dad's hired man after my brother and sister got married back in 48 when they got married. And then I was my dad's hired man for 5 years till I got married. Then I come over here and I was still my husband's hired man. And at times, you know, I would drive the tractor and drive the stack hay, baled hay with him, and disked corn and cultivate potatoes and ditched them out and stuff like that. In the wintertime, I'd put the kids to bed unless they were in school, and we'd go down in the dugout and sack the 100-pound sacks of potatoes.
Wow.
Get them ready for people to come get them.
So where was the actual farmhouse and the
It's
potato dugout and what's
It's
there
down
now?
on Walnut and 12th Street.
Okay.
And a little bit over when you turn off onto Walnut from 12th, on the corner there was a 60-foot shed there. And the cattle corrals were across the road, the street of Walnut, and the sheep corrals were there. And then the house was on the other side of, not quite 11th Street.
Okay.
In fact, Walnut Street came between the dugout and the house in the garage.
Really?
That's where Walnut Street comes through now.
Now it came.
Yeah,
That's
and
hard
there's
for people
a big,
to imagine.
a big tall tree there, and that's still one of the trees.
And
That's the only thing that's there yet.
Oh.
And of course, we got our labor house down below the patio homes now, Trailwood Court. There's a little farmhouse down there. That's where our hired man would live in.
Oh, the one that's just south of the patio homes that sits down. Okay, that is still standing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There's a family living in there, and it was a 3-room house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, they have a lot of livestock there still. What things, events in your life do you think had the most influence on you, beside what we've spoken about?
Well, just different things. You think you had a crop and, thinking, well, we could buy something in the fall, or something, and here come a hailstorm and knock you out, and so you didn't get what you wanted. And of course, buying groceries and stuff, we had our own eggs and potatoes and stuff like that, cream and butter, and my eggs I would take into the grocery stores here and trade them out for groceries.
Oh.
And then we separated our milk, and I'd haul that cream over to Greeley and get a couple of bucks, and that was what we bought groceries with. And so it wasn't, there was no drive-in where you could go and order anything or take it home. You had to come out of the field at 11 o'clock or 11:30 and throw something on the table and hoping you fed the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So you're a hard worker, and
I
so
did everything.
What haven't we talked about that you would like to discuss with the time we have left?
Well, we had almost 66 years of marriage, and a lot of water went under the bridge at that time, by that time, and we just, learned to work with each other. We never done anything without each other being there. We'd go shopping together and go on trips together and stuff like that. And of course, I got to go 1 week before I got married down to church camp in Colorado Springs. And I thought, man, this is going to be really good. And I got so homesick. In a week's time, at 17 years old, I thought, geez, when are we going to get home? I miss that farming anyway. I had a milk cows from the time I was 6 years old. I had a thin beets at 6 years old, and now it's called child abuse. But my dad said, hey, don't tell me how to raise my kids. You raise yours, I'll raise mine.
Well, he raised a lovely daughter. He raised a lovely daughter and family, and it's extended to your children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we had a fairly decent life,
Mm-hmm.
A few hardships, but you didn't think of getting divorced, because where would you go with two kids,
So you've lived in this part of Windsor, what, is Riverbend or West Windsor?
60, Riverbend, 68 years now I've been
68
here.
years, so tell people who live here, who might be watching this, what changes and what things they may not understand about this ground that they now call home in Windsor.
Well, when a realtor or construction outfit bought that farm, we kept 3 lots, one for each kid and for ourselves. And before, we were supposed to have built way back in 1980. Well, the guy that bought the place, the town wouldn't let him do a lot of things, and so he kind of went bankrupt. And that was when the interest was like 22%. Mm-hmm. And he'd done a lot of carryover work already in here and put sewer lines from 12th Street on over behind the Ace Hardware, mm-hmm. and on down 11th Street. And it was never hooked up and wasn't ever inspected. And one of the surveyors on a Christmas Eve night was walking down there on Walnut Street in 11th Street and opened manhole that was on our farm and on our land, and opened the lid, and here the sewer from Dairy Queen was up here and was about ready to come out.
It's now Taco Bell.
Yeah, it's Taco Bell now. And then they had to come out that night and hook them up. And I kind of raised heck with the town, but they thought they knew it all.
Yeah, growth is hard,
yeah.
and developing, and
I said it wasn't even inspected. Didn't have any, we didn't get paid for it either then. The town didn't pay us for it.
yeah.
Just took it up and,
So now what all sits on what was your farm? The Ace Hardware Shopping Center?
yeah, the hotel is on ours, the Loaf and Jug, the Chinese, Brick Pizza, the liquor store, that was all on our farm, over to Dairy Queen and all of the little shops here. That was all on our farm now.
And your neighbors were Bert and
On Bertha and Art Street, they just over on across 13th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Lorenzes had a farm on the north side of north of 13th, you know, where those shops are at. Well, it used to be Stuff Burgers, but now it's nothing right now. But anyway, they, Otto Street, Art's brother, he came from Germany over and married a girl from Germany, Peggy, and she had a clothing store in Windsor, where the old theater was. And there was a little store there, and she had the nicest clothes there, and I gotten a few clothes in there from her.
From her.
And then across the road, where Taco Bell is, why Harry Oligut lived there, and he's the one that sold the ground to the school.
Okay, yeah. So you know what used to be where the high school is?
Yeah,
that was which farm?
The Oligut farm right across the road here. And there was a farmhouse right by where the administration office is. There was a store, farm there that Alec Greenwald lived there. And that's when the tornado hit, and he had just, that was in May. Anyway, he had a straw stack back there, and when the tornado hit, it took the straw and drilled it right into the telephone poles.
Okay, and that was not the 2008 tornado,
No, that
but
was
the
way back. 56, 57 in there.
Okay.
Because I know Sandra was a baby. She was born in 55, and Stanley wasn't born yet. And
well, you have seen a lot of changes.
yes.
You have seen a lot of changes.
And you used to go to the grocery store, and it'd take you 2 hours to get your groceries because you knew everybody. And you would talk and visit with this, that, and the other. And now you go into Safeway, and if you see anybody, they're back at the pharmacy getting their medicine. That's the only people that you see.
That's where they stand still long enough and wait. Otherwise, it's such a big store. So
take you 15 minutes to get out of there.
I just want to thank you, Betty, for taking the time to interview and do the interview, and also share the changes that you've seen in Windsor.
Yeah, it changed a lot, you know, and the growth is getting out of hand, you know, and the traffic, you can't make a left-hand turn out of 12th Street now.
Yeah.
You have to, we go down.
And that used to dead end at,
yeah.
That was just a dirt road. So we probably shouldn't complain and not take things for granted. Then,
yeah. And then on 15 there was a county road there, they called 15, but there was just a lane there, and Jacob Pinkel lived there when we got married. And he was a cement contractor, you know, he did a lot of cement work.
Going north or south on 15?
That was Jacoby then.
Going north was Jacoby, so. Well, I hope that people watch your interview and learn a lot and appreciate what changes there are in Windsor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.